Thank you so much for being here today. Victoria Moran is the Oprah featured author of 12 books, including Main Street Vegan, Creating a Charmed Life, and coming this spring, The Good Karma Diet. Well, that sounds great. A plant-based nutrition specialist and certified health counselor. Victoria hosts the weekly Main Street Vegan podcast and directs Main Street Vegan Academy. That sounds wonderful. This seminar today is the Look Great, Feel Amazing, Age Later Lifestyle. Please help me welcome Victoria Moran.
Thank you,
Victoria.
It's always so interesting when people laugh, people clap before I say anything. So that's an act of faith. Thank you. I like approaching life that way. You know, just show up and applaud and assume it's going to be good. Such a pleasure to be here today. I had a lovely surprise this morning because I had never heard of Lake Katrine, and I thought I was going to some very exotic, faraway place. But I got Siri talking to me on the little phone. Oh, this is an aside. This is so much fun. The voice of Siri, who is an actual person, she lives in Florida, is following me on Twitter. Is that amazing? I felt like some giant celebrity had discovered me. It was very cool. But anyway, Siri's really good at getting you places. She got me here this morning from New York City, even though I only drive twice a year, and it's kind of a miracle. And once I got here, it's like, I know where I am, because in 2008, I lived in Woodstock. And I came to Kingston all the time whenever I needed something that wasn't tie-dyed. And so this morning, I realized I am mere blocks from the Starbucks where I used to go to write. You know, they may not have the healthiest food on earth, but they let you sit and plug in and be there all day. So, you know, you kind of gotta love them. And I just feel so acclimated, plus a couple of lovely friends are here today. Sandy Nasanowitz in the front row is a Main Street Vegan certified lifestyle coach and educator. So if you're interested in healthing up your diet, getting a little more plant food in there, see Sandy. And then we have the lovely Ann Olin, who teaches a fabulous back care class in Woodstock. So if you have any kind of back issues, see this wonderful former dancer to help you out with that. Well, right now, you've got me, and I want to talk to you about the Look Great, Feel Amazing, Age Later lifestyle. Who would like that? Who wouldn't like that? Okay, all is well. I'll tell you a little bit about my history and why I have the audacity to speak on a topic of that title. I had a horrible time getting acclimated to living in a physical body as a little kid. You know, I think maybe some people are just better off staying angels and watching over the rest of us, but those of us who have a whole lot of nerve decide we're gonna come here, we're gonna do life. And I just found it really difficult as a kid. I was never one of those kids who liked to get out and exercise. I liked to sit and read and watch TV and think and eat. And so it meant that I was overweight back in the days when kids weren't overweight. And making it even worse, my parents were in the weight loss business. So my dad was a diet doctor. And if you want to say something like, oh, you can, because it was really pitiful. And my mom was in the reducing salon industry. Now, you have to have lived on this planet a while to know what I'm talking about, but back in the day, kind of precursor to health clubs, they had these things where you would get in this belt and these rollers, and you would do this. And the idea was that if you did it long enough and with sufficient concentration, great chunks of yourself would float off into the stratosphere, never to be seen or heard from again. Didn't work for me. I was a fat kid. I was bad for business, but I was interested in fixing myself. And I can remember one day going into my dad's private office. I was 9 years old, and I climbed up on his desk so I could get to the top shelf of his bookcases where he kept his old medical school textbooks. And I saw one that was about nutrition. I don't even know how I knew that because it had this Latin title. It was Alimentaris Humanus. But I pulled it down off the shelf. It was really old and smelled funny. But I started turning the pages. And it was a lot of chemistry, a lot of stuff I didn't understand. But then I saw a chart that was actually written in regular words. And it was what we would today call an Andy score. Dr. Joel Furman, if you know him from PBS, he's done this thing for Whole Foods Markets that he calls the Andy score, which is nutrition per calorie. It's like how much bang for your caloric buck you get for every food. Well, I thought that was going to be some brand new thing, but then I remembered, wait a minute, way back when, it was in my dad's medical textbook from the 1930s, so nothing is new. That's my first little point for you today. Whenever somebody goes on TV and they've got the whole new thing, the brand new diet, the brand new approach, it's not new, it's just recycled. So little bit of knowledge there. You know when Benjamin Franklin said that there are two things in life that can be said to be certain, death and taxes, he left one out, diets. There's always going to be another one of those. But anyway, I'm standing up on the chair in my dad's office, and I'm looking at this book, and I realize that the very best foods, the most nutrient per calorie, I'd never eaten. So the first one was collard greens. Who knew? Then there was Calais. Didn't know what that was either. Then there was mustard greens, which I figured was some kind of typo, because everybody knows mustard is yellow, not green. Arugula, now that had to be Italian. Swiss chard, obviously Swiss. So I'm thinking this is all this exotic stuff that no wonder I don't eat it. Well, the reason I didn't eat it was when you're a kid growing up in the Midwest in the 1950s and 60s, it just wasn't in the cool aisles of the supermarket. But what I see today is eating some of those foods with the most nutritional bang for the buck pays such dividends. So as I went on through life, first I had to deal with my food thing. You know, there are three kinds of people who have food issues, in my opinion. And one is just people who could use some education. Maybe they eat the typical American diet, they eat a lot of fast food. Once they kind of get it, that a diet with a whole lot of plants in it, a lot of really fresh foods, unprocessed foods, they just go to town. They're fine, they're taken care of. Then you've got your emotional eater. And these are people who may eat really healthy. They may be able to do chapter and verse about nutrition and all that, but let the boyfriend leave or the boss say something nasty, they're into the Haagen-Dazs. So that kind of person, you need some support, you need some self-esteem building. But then over here, you got the kind of person that I was. In fact, the kind of person that I am. I am a food addict. I just have not practiced that addiction in 31 years. But if I stop doing the things I need to do, if I got out of fit spiritual condition, meaning I just try to keep myself a basically decent person day to day, if that left, I'm not going to go out and do a drug deal. I'm not going to pick up sailors. I'd go back to the food. So I had to change from the inside out, and once I had that change, I was able to choose a healthy plant-based diet. I've been doing that for 31 years, and I have to tell you, if anybody had ever told me 31 years ago that 65 would look and feel like this, I would have said, you're smoking something funny. So life is good, and I want to share some of that goodness with you. So if you read the program, where they practically printed my whole talk, you'll see that what I want to share with you today is a program that I came up with called MEND, M-E-N-D. Wouldn't it be cool if you could just push the delete key on maybe the cookies you ate last weekend or the parties you went to 20 years ago, just kind of make those go away as if any effect on your body-mind entity had not happened. Well, you know what? There is a way to do that, and that is mend. It's a way to mend your ways with M for meditation, E for exercise, N for nourishment, and D for detoxification. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And in all honesty, if you can get those 4 things into your daily life, and I'm not talking about spending hours or changing the way you live or moving your family out so you can focus on self-care. I'm just talking about in the morning, just bring to mind, can I today touch on meditation, exercise, good nourishment, and a little bit of detox today? And just make a checklist about that. And then at night, go back and say, did I have some quiet time? Did I move my body? Did I eat some good food? And did I do something to poison myself less? And every day that you do that, you're a star. And every day that you even tried to do that and didn't quite make it, you're a star. Just shine more brightly tomorrow. So let's talk first about meditation. Now, sometimes people are afraid of that word because it seems complicated, or it seems exotic, or it seems Eastern, or like you have to know how to sit in a lotus position. No. What meditation is, in the context that we're talking about it here, is taking some time to be quiet and go within yourself. Because the world is telling us all kinds of things. If you get up in the morning and just shoot yourself out the door like you're being shot out of a cannon, you're very vulnerable to all these outside influences. You're vulnerable to somebody telling you, oh, I went on that great diet and all these things happened for me. You're vulnerable to all of the sadness in the world that just makes you feel bad but doesn't empower you to do anything about it. But if you have a little bit of quiet time in the morning before you start your day, it's like putting on a nice warm coat in the wintertime. You go out there in the snow, but you've got a layer of protection. Well, what this gives you is a layer of psychic protection. Now, what does that have to do with feeling great and feeling younger? A lot. There have been studies going on in universities and medical centers since the 1970s looking at the effects of meditation on the physical body. So some of the things that they have found are that people who meditate get sick less. They have fewer sick days. That's why some corporations will spend money to teach their employees how to meditate. They have also found that cholesterol lowers, blood pressure lowers. Here's my favorite study, though. This was the one that showed that people who meditate regularly for 5 years or more are 12 years younger physiologically than people who don't. Now do a little math with me. Subtract 12 from your chronological age. Now that might put some of you back in middle school, but for any of us, that's substantial. You know, if you quit smoking, you add 7 years to your life. But if you just sit quietly every day. Now the people in the study did 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the late afternoon. Late afternoon is tough, but if you can get that morning in, even just 10 minutes to start with, what the study showed was that these people had greater joint flexibility. They had better hearing, better vision, better body mass index, better blood sugar control. All the things that tend to go south over time didn't happen in that degree to the people who were just quiet. Now, this is a wonderful thing for those of us who already like to sit. The only thing is, even those who like to sit often don't like to sit and do nothing, because then you're sitting with yourself. That's the magic of it. So how do you do it? Well, if you have a religious practice, prayer, scripture reading, something like that, that'll count. If you just want to learn a secular meditation for your health and your well-being, You sit, and you don't have to sit cross-legged. You can sit with your feet on the floor. You can sit on the bed and lean against the headboard. You want your spine to be a little bit straight because this just is not conducive to higher thought. And you just watch your breath. If you want to use a mantra, you can be very yogic in Sanskrit and do something like Om Shanti. Om is the primordial sound that in the yoga tradition was supposed to be the word that caused everything to happen. If that is just too out there, don't do that. Do something in English. I like English. I'm a writer. So what I will often do is all is on the inhalation and well on the exhalation. You want to just close your eyes for a minute and do that with me? Just put your feet on the floor. Put your hands in your lap. Uplifted is nice because that's kind of like telling your body, mind that you want to accept all the good that is in store for you. And just take a nice inhalation and say to yourself, all is, and exhale, well. I'll give you a minute for that. Sometimes your mind will say, all is not well. Your life isn't perfect. And you say, all is well. And your monkey mind says, haven't you been watching the news? All is well. And you kind of get into the groove of, you know what, maybe on some level that I don't understand, all really is well, and I can be energized and motivated to do what I can do to make the stuff that looks kind of nasty better. Now, will you have thoughts during meditation? You will. St. Francis said that thoughts during meditation are like birds flying around your head. It's perfectly fine that they're there. You just don't want to invite them to build nests in your hair. So you take 10 minutes in the morning and you just be quiet and you just be still. If that doesn't work for you, you can write in a journal. You can do a walking meditation, something that is meditative. Because you're going to go out in the world and people are going to want things from you. You're going to have all your obligations and what's expected. And if you've had this little time to connect with the highest and best that's in you, your life is going to exponentially improve. Who can do that for 30 days? 10 minutes in the morning, 30 days. Whoa! Okay, I'm going to give you my email. Victoria@mainstreetvegan.net. 30 days from today. That's going to put us into June the 1st. That'll be easy to remember. June the 1st, just drop me a quick email and say, I did it. Or even, I did it 23 days. That's a lot. That's 23 days to the good. So for everybody who raised your hand, and even for those of you who didn't, give it a try. See what happens. Remember, we're going to mend all those ways that didn't serve us in the past. Now, E in the MEND program is exercise, and I wish it weren't, because I've never warmed to exercise. I was the kid chosen last for everything. Sweating just never felt good. How could you compare sweating to Jane Austen? I mean, no contest for somebody like me. Now, who in this room really likes to exercise? It's fun, you got a sport. Okay, you guys, I don't know, go meditate or something. I'm talking to everybody else. Those of us who are not natural exercisers have got to figure out a way to do it anyway. That old Nike Just Do It thing was so brilliant, and everybody took to that immediately because it's so true. Like it or not, we have to just do it. Now, why? Some people would say, well, you know, I don't care. I'm carrying a few extra pounds. I don't want to go exercise. That's legitimate, but it's not just about that. It's about telling your cells, especially as we grow older, that you're still in the game. There's a wonderful book called Younger Next Year. I didn't write it, wish I did. But in that book, a physician and a master's level athlete explain very, very clearly how when you are moving, there is an electrical message that goes to your very cells that says, I'm still in the game, all is well, keep giving me the good stuff that I need to keep going. Because at that cellular level, there are only two ways to go, the way of growth and the way of decay. Without exercise, the body believes that we're in some primordial historic time of famine. Now, we can be lying on the couch and just eating all kinds of yummy things, but to the body, if we're not moving, it thinks famine. Well, what did the body do back in prehistoric times when there were periods of famine constantly? It slowed everything down because maybe if your metabolism was barely working, if all of these wonderful chemicals that give you life and energy weren't being secreted, maybe you could make it through the winter. Maybe you could make it through the famine. So we have to be moving the body. We have to. If I was able to change that, if I could hire somebody to exercise for me, oh my gosh, I would sell my condo to hire somebody to exercise for me. But it's not happening, so I gotta do it for myself. So if you are one of those people who has activity resistance disorder, I made it up for my new book, The Good Karma Diet, but I think it's a real condition. And I think if we start calling it ARD, people would start to respect it and understand it. And maybe 5 years from now, we could go to a therapist and they could put ARD in and actually get insurance reimbursement for helping us with activity resistance disorder. Activity resistance disorder comes from this kind of lethargy that it's so easy to spiral into if you're not a natural exerciser. So here's what happens. Either you just don't care about exercise and you just don't want to do it and you kind of avoid it, or you know you ought to do it and so you try to do it. It's like all these things we try to do. You know what happens when we try? It becomes very trying. So you might join a gym and you get all excited and you're paying your money, so you go every day. And you get really good at it, and you're doing the treadmill, and you got the earphones, and then you maybe pay a trainer a couple of times a week for a while, so you really learn how to lift and you get it all going. And then you look at all your friends who were your peers last month, and you're thinking, what slouches? I am a superior being. But then you get a cold. You get an injury. You take a vacation, and you miss a day at the gym, or 2 days, or 30 days, and you find yourself paying that gym bill every month and never darkening the door. Who has ever done that? Yes, we have done that. We continue to do that because human nature is conserve your energy. Conserve your energy at all costs because of most of human history, energy was hard to get. Food was hard to get. Think about out on the savannah in the prehistoric times. Some guy going out running, what an idiot. Well, times have changed. The body hasn't. The other thing for a non-exerciser, if you're on one of those things where you just haven't been doing it and it's so hard to get back, don't try to get back to where you were. You can never step into the same river twice. That's so true with exercise. The first thing you need to do is get into your body. What happens when we stop exercising is we live from here on up. We are very intellectual. We can have really important conversations. We can watch the news and make our own commentary. But all this, we're just ignoring it. So you want to get your consciousness down into your body, and there's several ways that you can do that. One is to get some body work. Do they have some of that here today? Is there somebody doing chair massage or something? I hope so, I hope so. I will be there. So if you can get just some touch. Somebody did a study quite a while ago where they looked at people who were overweight, and they had half the group do diet and exercise, and they had the other half rub themselves with lotion for 15 minutes 3 times a week. The lotion people beat out the diet and exercisers. Why? Because they came to realize that they really had a body. They had this body awareness. So you can massage yourself, you can get somebody else to massage you. The other thing you can do is do some kind of exercise that seems just completely wimpy. So go to a restorative yoga class. If you've never taken one of those, oh, they're so delightful. You get to feel like you're exercising and really you're just lounging. And you're lounging on all this wonderful equipment and you feel so good. Or maybe a class like Feldenkrais, which you're basically lying on a mat thinking about parts of your body. Now that's some exercise I can get behind, even when I'm having activity resistance disorder. But what happens when you do even these small things is that your consciousness starts to let you know that you really do have arms and legs and even a torso and even a tummy, and yes, it is touchable. And then you want to do more moving. And you want to do the basic movements that we all know that we're supposed to do. So let's all feel smart and shout it out. What's the first kind of exercise everybody needs to get? Cardio. Yeah, walking is great. Walking is fabulous. But any kind of cardio that gets your heart rate up, we know it's the walking and the dancing and the jogging and the skating and the cycling and all that kind of thing. Now, if you are not a normal exercise lover, it's so boring. Oh, God. And a book like Younger Next Year is suggesting 45 minutes, 4 to 6 times a week. 45 minutes! I mean, that's like a Lifetime movie with the commercials taken out. That's a long time. So what do? You try to find some you really love. Some people really get into like Zumba and jazzercise and all that kind of thing. Not my thing. Some people love those cycling classes, the spinning classes, where you get to go crazy and be competitive. Not my thing. So I get on a treadmill. Boring as all get out, but that is why God made podcasts. So you put on the earphones, life is good. So I like to look at the metaphysical, metaphorical underside of exercise. We know that cardio, it burns calories and it gets your metabolism going and it gets your cardiorespiratory system all strong. Very, very important stuff. But what about the underside? You know, we call it cardio, we call it aerobics, but it's also called endurance exercise. Do you think life calls for some endurance, especially as you get on in life? So if you really want to do 45 minutes on that treadmill, that's going to give you something deep in your actual life about endurance. So when you're doing it and you're thinking, oh my goodness, when will this ever end? Think about how this is going to help carry you through your life, physically and other ways as well. Now, the other kind of exercise that we need a lot of is strength training, pumping iron. Now, who does strength training? I have to say, I almost like it. And for an exercise, that is a lot to say. I realized recently that the reason that I almost like it is that it's in my genes. My dad was a prize fighter. That's how he worked his way through medical school. And he did weight training. He did push-ups and sit-ups and all those things in the old days that we don't do so much now. But he had muscles, and he got them some way. It's very interesting. Look at your family. Is there anybody in your family who had a sport? Look at old albums. Did your grandparents go ice skating? Just think about it, because that's kind of in your genes. I recently discovered aerial yoga. Has anybody done that? It's so much fun. You hang from these hammocks, so you're actually doing stuff in the air. Now, I didn't know I was gonna love it until I got there, loved it, and realized, oh my gosh, my daughter is an aerialist. She's also a stunt performer. She's one of those people. But then I thought, wait a minute, she's got my genes, and she wants to leap tall buildings in a single bound. So just like there are families who like to do running, the Joiners, there are families who play football like the Mannings, and I think my family is more like the Flying Melendas. So look at that and see what's there for you. But in terms of the weight training, it will give you this amazing feeling of owning the space you take and the air you breathe. And even though it might seem a little weird at first or a little boring at first, it works so fast to get rid of this flappy stuff. And you start to get this body that you're very happy with. And you really only have to do it twice a week. And in fact, you do want to have at least one day in between, maybe even two, to let your joints and your muscles repair and recover. Now, what about the metaphysical and metaphorical underside of this wonderful kind of exercise that gives you all this wonderful strength, and it strengthens your bones? It also makes you feel strong as a person. When I was doing a lot of weight training at one point in my life and also taking some self-defense classes, I was driving with my daughter, and out one eye, I noticed over on the sidewalk, this man was beating on this woman. And there were people on the sidewalk, and nobody was doing anything. They were just looking. Well, somebody had to help her, so I guess it had to be me. So I told my daughter, you just sit, park the car or stop the car, got out, and when I got there, I realized that this guy was ginormous. But I was out of the car, so I had to do what I came for. And I yelled at him at the top of my lungs, cut it out! And I've never seen speechless in a human. He went, he couldn't say anything because somebody had stood up to him, because I felt strong enough to stand up to him. Now, the sad other side of all that is that it turned out this was his girlfriend. She got up on her tippy toes, kissed him on the cheek. Well, I did my job, and I like to think that I showed her something so that at some point later, she would stand up to the brute and say, cut it out, and then get out of there. But this is just the kind of thing that happens when you start to feel strong in your body. Then we need flexibility. In yoga, they say, you are as young as your spine. So you want to do some stretches and some bends. You can do them at night when you're watching television. Just put something down on the carpet, a blanket or a yoga mat or whatever. Do some stretches at night before you go to bed. You don't have to do so many, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can keep your yoga mat out by your bed, do a few at night, and you get up in the morning and you just do a few more. And then you start to feel that, you know what? Even though they tell you that the longer you go in life, the stiffer you get, you don't have to. Now, what about the metaphysical and metaphorical side of flexibility? I learned about it at IKEA. There used to not be an IKEA in New York City, so I had to hire this guy to drive me out there. He was called Schmuck with a Truck. And so he drives me to IKEA, and I buy this desk. And I was so excited. It was very attractive. But I got it home and realized it had 8,000 pieces. And I was supposed to put it together with this one little tool shaped like an L. Well, it wasn't happening. So I had to hire Schmuck with a Truck again, go back to IKEA, take the thing back, and I was getting so tense. I'm in the car there, and I'm really resentful at IKEA, maybe all of Scandinavia. And I get in the take-back line, and everybody else is very tense, too, except one young woman. She evidently took ballet as a child because she had one foot facing the Atlantic and one foot facing the Pacific, and she didn't even act like it hurt. And she was going, it was weird in the take-back line at IKEA, but she was stretching and bending and not impersonating Quasimodo. I learned in that moment flexibility, not just for your body, but also for life. Incidental exercise, move, get up, stand. I stand in the subway these days. People say, would you like a seat? Part of me wants to say, I'm not that old. Part of me says, sure, because I want them to offer the seat to the next person who really needs it. But if that doesn't happen, I stand up. My computer now lives on the breakfast bar, so I'm more likely to work standing. They did a study that showed that people get less heart failure who stand a lot than people who sit but run an hour a day. So stand up if you don't want to run, or even if you do. So move, find ways to move, love it, enjoy it. ME, meditation, exercise, that's its own acronym. That's me. Can you take care of me in the morning? If you take care of me in the morning, you can take care of everybody else for the rest of the day. N is nourishment. That could be a whole talk in itself. Here's my take on nourishment. Now, you look out in the world with all the different ideas on nutrition and fitness, and it's dazzling, and it's discouraging, because everything seems to make you sick. I did a blog post, mainstreetvegan.net/blog, week before last, called, Can Eating Healthy Make You Sick? Because you can go down this path of, well, I'm not going to eat sugar, and I'm not going to eat flour, and I'm not going to eat oil, and I'm not going to eat refined this and that, and I'm not going to blah, 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 blah. And you get to the point where you're not eating. And then you know what people do? Swing back. If I can't do that, then I'm just going to do nothing. But there is this beautiful middle way. Here's the beautiful middle way. You want to eat colorful, beautiful, fresh, vital foods. You want 90% of your diet to be beautiful, to be like a still life. That leaves you 10% for when you're driving on the interstate, or when life intervenes and you have to eat something else, or sometimes when you just flip and want to eat something else. But 90% of your diet needs to come from this rainbow. You want your plate and your shopping cart to look like a Christmas tree, mostly green with splashes of other bright colors, because that's where you get the phytonutrients, the antioxidants, all these wonderful chemicals that live in plants and that help you avoid degenerative disease and age in slow motion. So the questions you want to ask as you choose a food is, does this have a color that doesn't start with FDC123? You want it to have a real color from nature. Lots and lots of green, as I said, but blueberries, red cabbage, orange carrots, yellow squash, all the colors of the rainbow. They're all fabulous for you. You want to say, when you're choosing one food or another, would this food grow if I planted it? Anybody garden? Anybody sprout? Wonderful things to do. I heard a great quote about gardening. Gardening is like growing money. Isn't that terrific? But if you're a gardener, if you've ever grown anything, there's something miraculous about how that dry, dark seed has within it this incredible life force potential. Now, when you eat a sprout or a little microgreen, tiny little vegetable before it gets to be as big as they sell them at the supermarket, or regular vegetables, that's got that life force energy in it. So in addition to the protein, carbohydrates, and fat, the vitamins, minerals, you get this amazing life force energy that a yogi, like my friend Sandy here in the front row, would call prana. You can't measure it in a laboratory, but you know when you get it. Lots of fresh foods, lots of raw foods even, especially now that we're coming into summer, which we don't have nearly enough of, but this is the time of year when we really want to eat salads, smoothies, fresh juices. This is a great adventure. And nowadays, with all of the wonderful recipes available online, all you have to do is just Google green smoothies, healthy juices. Now, we're not talking juice out of the bottle from the store. We're talking about the kind of juice that you juice, mostly green, greens and lemon. Wonderful combination. Call it green lemonade. Here's my favorite. You take a whole head of celery. You put with it 1 to 2 apples. Start with 2 in the beginning. You'll get to the point where you don't need to, because there's a lot of sugar when you juice a fruit. Then you want to put in 4 to 6 leaves of kale, curly, flat, doesn't matter. It's kale. Kale saves the world. And then you want to put in a whole peeled lemon. That will cut the kind of grassiness of the green juice, and you'll think you're having a delicious, delightful, fabulous glass of lemonade. Now, it will be green. My husband does not do green, so I got one of those coffee mugs with the little bitty tiny hole in it. I think they invented those after the woman sued McDonald's for the hot coffee. So anyway, I made the juice, I put it in. I thought he'll never, ever know. My husband looked in that little bitty hole, and he said to me, "That's green, but I'll drink it anyway." And he's fine. Now he drinks one every day. So you want to put life into your life. The basic foods are vegetables, particularly greens, fruits, beans, legumes, lentils, split peas, all that kind of thing. You can sprout them, you can cook them, you can put them on toast, you can make them into chili, you can make them into soup. Beans, they have a kind of fiber in them that helps you lose weight. Who wouldn't want to eat something that helps you lose weight? Great source of protein, complete amino acid profile. Whole grains. Now, I'm not talking ground up stuff, not talking cereal in a box, but things like quinoa, millet, brown rice, oatmeal, whole grains. Grains have gotten a bad rap in certain circles lately, but you know what? They've sustained humans for all these thousands of years. And anybody with a big family, a limited budget, those grains and beans are going to form the foundation of the diet, and then you'll put the other fresher stuff on top. Nuts and seeds, you don't eat so many of those because they're very concentrated, but do you know what? The only food that has ever been shown across the board in every study to make people live longer is nuts and seeds. Now we're talking raw nuts and seeds, not all salted and roasted in cottonseed oil, but just nice plain walnuts, nice omega-3 balance there. Macadamia is really good nut. You can make them into nut butter. You can just have them as a little dessert. You know that phrase, from soup to nuts? Except we don't do that. We kind of do from soup to sugar. Well, why not from soup to nuts? They're nice and rich, and they have a kind of desserty feel without being sweet. Finally, D in the MEND program is detoxification. Now that sounds very complex. It sounds like I am suggesting that we all go on a juice fast. Could do that. Who's seen the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead? If you haven't seen it, go on Netflix, go wherever you watch movies, and find Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. It's delightful. It's about this really good-looking Australian guy who goes on a juice fast for 60 days, way extreme. But he had a really bad autoimmune disease that he wanted to get rid of. So that's very inspiring. But the basic way to detox is just don't toxify yourself so much to begin with. So what does that mean? That means you don't want to put stuff on your skin or into your body or breathe it in that is full of nasty chemicals. So where are we getting all this stuff? Well, we can eat it from food that's not organic. And I know organic food can be expensive. If you can't eat all organic food, go to the Environmental Working Group, and they have a nice list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. When you're going to buy greens and berries, do spring for organic, because those things are really, really sprayed. But when you're going to buy something like citrus or avocados, you don't need to spend the money on organic if you don't have it. So there's a way to do all these things. You also want to use natural body care. People say, oh, it doesn't matter, that doesn't go inside you. Have you ever known anybody to stop smoking with the patch? That goes inside. That's why it works. So you want to use products that are pure and clean. You can even make your own. That's kind of fun if you have the Martha Stewart gene. Otherwise, you can go to a natural food store. You can find somebody who distributes Arbonne or some of these wonderful, clean kinds of cosmetics. Then, what are you cleaning your house with? Most of us have a toxic waste dump underneath our kitchen sink. This is an experiment. Walk down the aisle of the supermarket where they have the cleaning products. And if you dare, inhale. If you're chemically sensitive, you'll get a headache. And even if you're not, but you're paying attention, you're going to smell it. These are all things that are all sealed up and closed up, and you're getting all that reekiness. You don't want that in your life. You don't want that in your body. So you can either buy the natural things. They're at any natural food store, and even a lot of other places. Walgreens now has a line that's non-toxic. Or you can make your own. There's a lovely woman up here in this area. I think she may be from New Paltz, Annie Berthold Bond. She wrote a classic book called Clean and Green. And she can teach you how to clean anything, your basic stuff, but even weird stuff like piano keys and white wall tires with club soda, baking soda, easy, easy stuff. So you save the money, and then you can buy organic berries. It all works out. You also want to get enough sleep at night. That's a way to help you detoxify. And you want to look at what's going into your body that's a food and what's a drug. We can ingest only two things, foods and drugs. And the drugs, the body has to work to rid the parts that are poisonous. So we might love our caffeine. Well, it's still a drug. Your liver has to deal with it. All the over-the-counter stuff, people say, I don't take anything. I'm not on any prescriptions. Okay, fine. But look at your medicine cabinet. Let's see, maybe there's some Advil, maybe there's some Dramamine, maybe you're on birth control pills and it doesn't feel like a prescription. Now, obviously, if you need to take a medication, you take the medication. But anything that is in that drug world that you don't need to take, look at that. And you might also want to have an annual meeting with your physician and a good pharmacist to see if anything isn't matching, isn't working together. Because the point is, you just want to live clean. You want to do your liver a favor. When you exercise, you're going to sweat. That helps you detoxify. You can get a little tongue scraper in the toothpaste aisle of the drugstore and scrape that kind of sweater that grows on your tongue overnight. In Ayurvedic medicine, they call that ama, metabolic debris. So you just get rid of that and start your day fresh. You can also help your lymphatic system, which is just there for detoxification, by running on a little treadmill or running on a little bouncy trampoline or bouncing on one of those big balls at the gym. And people will say, you're not doing anything important, you're just bouncing on a ball. Aha, you are detoxifying yourself. So in closing, what are we going to do with our lives? We're going to mend our ways and make everything work. We're going to get a little meditation in. We're going to get some exercise in. 6 days a week, everybody gets a day of rest. We're going to nourish ourselves really vitally with fabulous food, but also with wonderful friends and good conversation and just living a nourishing life. Then we are going to detoxify by getting rid of that junk under the sink. Who promises me you're going to do an under the sink clean out? Come on, under the sink clean out, it's not that hard. Amen. Very, very good thing to do. And you know what will happen? As you do this a day at a time, and you don't have to do it all at once. This is not like once was lost and now I'm found. It's like, no, once was a little bit toxic and now I'm a little bit cleaner. You keep going forward. You learn more, you do more, you share more. It's a beautiful ripple effect. So here's to ripples and wonders and aging slowly and making a difference in this world. All the best.
Victoria Moran. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Now, Victoria, you are going to be outside at the book stand, right outside, because you do have some of your books here for sale.
Yes.
Are there any quick questions before our next speaker? Any quick questions? Because she will be outside if you want to ask her something for a little while. Yep, we have a question right here.
How bad is the hair color?
Ooh, that's a good question. But
Yeah, how bad is hair color? It's bad enough that I didn't color my hair when I was pregnant, but I always have the rest of the time. I use Aveda. I go to an Aveda salon, which is somewhat non-toxic. You can also go to a health food store and buy do-it-yourself hair color that is probably even more non-toxic. I didn't find it work very well. Some people swear by it. If you're living a very non-toxic life ordinarily and you do one toxic thing, you're a lot better off than somebody who's doing a whole lot of toxic things. There is some indication that the dark brown colors, dark brown and black, have something in them that is carcinogenic to a degree that other colors are not. That's what I know, and I wish the world were perfect.
that's a good question, because I've said if I'm dead, make sure you do my roots before anybody sees me at my wake. Yeah. Good question. Any other quick questions, Victoria? All right. Well, thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you so much.